Spider-Man pre-release was not the home run that most people thought it was going to be. Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie, and I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Today, we're going to have a recap of the Spider-Man pre-release weekend as we roll into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of full-on release week, which is this Friday. Somebody at Wizards of the Coast this morning, on Monday morning, has the job of opening up their computer and taking a look at the data from everybody's pre-release in the entire world, which was this past weekend. And they're gonna open up that computer anticipating that this set was doing really well and was a home run, and they are going to be met with a rude awakening, is my opinion. I was astonished. This was our first pre-release in our new space, and I thought we were going to, have a huge crowd, that kind of thing. We always have sold out pre-releases for the last 4 years of me running a business, running a game store. We have sold out multiple pre-releases in the full space. When we were in our previous spot, we did 4 pre-releases and we sold out each of them. This set, across the board, not just my store, but across the board, I'm hearing from a lot of stores that the demand at pre-release was very, very small. And so for us, we had about half as many people come out to pre-release this time around as any other time around for the major pre-releases. And then bingo, we didn't have the reoccurring people staying for multiple pre-releases after, which is super interesting. So I want to get into that a little bit, but then I also want to talk about the set, and I'm not all doom and gloom on it. I want to be very clear right here. I'm not like all in on the doom and gloom of this set. I think there is some saving factors for this set, particularly with the collector boxes, that I think will end up doing okay. But man, if you are Wizards of the Coast coming in on Monday morning expecting this set to have done well, I think they were going to be rudely awakened by the numbers. I reached out to a bunch of people because I was really worried. I was like, what did I do wrong? Did I do bad advertising? Did I mess something up? Like with all the transactions, all the history of the store. And everyone I talked to was like, no, like pre-releases were not as busy this weekend for anybody. So it was very interesting. And I think there's a couple factors for this. Number one, Spider-Man is not Magic the Gathering. I know, Universes Beyond, I'm not going to get into that much, but Spider-Man is much different than Final Fantasy. Spider-Man is much different than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings and Final Fantasy fit the narrative of Magic the Gathering. If you are a Magic the Gathering fan, you can show up and you're still playing what feels like Magic the Gathering. It has swords and it's like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like it feels like Magic the Gathering. And I think that works because if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, you could say, man, I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy, but listen, it's a new set. I'm going to pre-release. I'm excited to play Magic the Gathering. With Spider-Man, it's just different. If you're a fan of Magic the Gathering and you look at Spider-Man and you say, hey, I don't like this. I'm not a fan of Spider-Man. Then all of a sudden you also have to look and say, do I want to go out on a Friday night instead of doing whatever else I could do? Do I want to go out on a Friday night and play Spider-Man cards? No, you don't, because you don't like Spider-Man. It doesn't fit what you enjoy, whereas Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings, even if I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, it still fits the narrative of what I enjoy from Magic the Gathering and the experience and that kind of thing. I think that is the biggest factor for the failure of Spider-Man pre-release and Spider-Man limited play. Then you throw on this other factor with Spider-Man, right? This other factor, that there are so many legendary creatures in the set, and it's a smaller set. And it just doesn't feel like Wizards wanted originally. We know this, right? Mark Rosewater said it was never meant to be a full set. It feels like it was an Assassin's Creed Beyond set that they then took and were like, hey, let's wedge this in as a full standard release. And they wedged it in as a full standard release, and they didn't put the work on it. The second point here, my employee said it best. This is, I can't take this quote. This is the best quote, I think, on Spider-Man on the entire internet. It comes from Cole, my wonderful employee. Here it is. They printed half a set and they expected people to pay twice the price. They printed half a set and they expected people to pay twice the price. And I'm not even talking about just the secondary market prices, but they have raised the price on all the Universes Beyond stuff as well. But then on top of that, we're in this kind of crazy market where things are really expensive. And at the end of the day, there's just not enough cards. There's not enough. And this factored into the limited play experience. I was talking to people at pre-release and they were like, listen, like there were so many duplicates. And when you're drafting and when you're building a sealed pool and you've got a bunch of legendary creatures, they were like, listen, we pulled legendaries because you don't want to have the same 2 cards out there because they're legendary creatures. It changes the way that you build a sealed pool when everything is legendaries. And I was reminded by Dominaria United, which put a legendary in every pack, but the size of that set is so much, it's so much bigger than the size of the Spider-Man set. They got away with it. They were able to do it. Not that that set was particularly a good limited experience or anything. But the limited experience of Spider-Man was hamstrung by the small card pool and by the large number of legendary creatures. And I think that had a huge factor in the pre-release and the excitement for the set. And I think it's going to continue to have a factor. Listen, we're going to draft Spider-Man this weekend because it's the new set and we're going to give it a go. We're going to try it. I fully anticipate this draft to be low attended. I actually think we will offer a Spider-Man draft and another draft, another set, because we often have, anywhere from 12 to 18 drafting on a Friday night. And so we'll offer Spider-Man. If there's 8 or 4 people, we'll get into that in a second, who want to draft Spider-Man, they can do it. But I don't want to put all my eggs on a Friday night into that basket because of the demand this previous weekend for Spider-Man. It just wasn't there. And then you put that on top of that this set is it's like a pick 2 4-person draft format type thing, which might have some cool things to it. I think that's actually a cool way to get people drafting at like your kitchen table and drafting around, just around that at the house, because it's easier to get 4 people than it is to get 8 people. But from an LGS perspective, from a traditional come in and play perspective, if you are drafting Spider-Man, it's gonna be an interesting weekend next weekend. And that you pick 2 thing is really weird with the way that the card pool works. I just don't think it's not a good limited set. It's just bad. It's just a bad limited set. It's not going to have that much excitement for the limited environment. But here is the positive, okay? I promised you I wasn't just going to harp on the negative stuff. I think that Spider-Man is still going to do very, very well from a couple of different perspectives. I think people are still going to want to open packs. I think the cards in Spider-Man are decently good cards. I think the mechanics are kind of fun. For Commander, I think it's a really cool, interesting thing with the Spider-Man. I think if Spider-Man had come out and it was a Doctor Who set where you had 4 Commander decks, you had a collector booster box, and maybe they threw in a Beyond box in that mix, right? Something like that. I think this could have been a really, really cool experience and a really cool set. It's the making it a standard set and forcing it into a regular release with a pre-release that I think didn't work. I think that this set is actually pretty cool and pretty fun. I think the cards are cool. I think there's some cool mechanics. I think for Commander, there's really good legendary creatures that people are going to want to build. If you are a Spider-Man fan, you're going to want to build some of these mechanics. You're going to want to build some of these, just the IP and the characters. And then you're going to want Spider-Man themed cards in it. I think there's a lot of wins on that side of the set. You have some factors there, right? Like where you have a smaller set. It's easier to pull different cards, although, man, holy moly, the Soul Stone, listen, that card, I know people who open master cases, 24 collector boxes. We're talking 15 to 20 grand worth of collector boxes, and they pulled one. I know two different people who pulled one foil Soul Stone out of collector boxes. They didn't pull any non-foils. That's all they pulled. One foil, regular, not the borderless fancy one that I opened, the regular foil Soul Stone. That card is 100%, in my opinion, that card is 100% short printed for a mythic. There's a secret rarity there. That card is more rare than the other mythics from all the people I've talked to who have opened, lots of product. It's a very, very hard card to pull. I think stuff like that, I think there's going to be demand for it. I don't see this set collapsing upon itself and losing a ton of value on the secondary market. Now, we did have a small a small resupply from distribution late on Friday. I mean, it was like I got a text from my rep late on Friday that they were going to have some more collector product that will be coming out this week that they did not allocate. They didn't have it, planned. I don't even know that they knew about it. So I do think there will be some more supply hitting the market for collector boxes. Obviously, play boxes are going to be reprinted and that kind of stuff. That may jumpstart like a short window of which stores, are just taking the free money, taking the free tendies that are out there. I mean, it's like a $630 box before taxes and shipping and all that stuff right now. It's still like sitting at a cost of $680 or something like that to get a collector box to you. And so I think that stores will take that kind of free money. You get a case of this and you can roll out and make some money. Like, I think a lot of stores will just kind of enter the market like that. So I do think that negative pressure, as well as just the lack of excitement from a pre-release standpoint, will put a little downwards pressure in the short term on Spider-Man collector boxes, play boxes, that kind of stuff. But long term, I think a lot of those singles, you're looking at some value there, that if there is demand for something like the Soul Stone, if that card does see play in Commander, it becomes one of those cards that, like, if you're building that deck, you just got to put it in, that kind of thing. I think that stuff will give a lot of demand for the collector boxes and that kind of thing. So, all this to wrap up, okay? I think Wizards is in a really weird spot right now. If I'm that Wizards employee, and Mark Rosewater comes to me and says, "Hey, what are your thoughts on why pre-release attendance was so low?" Because they're going to talk about this. Now, they will not share publicly, okay? They will share publicly with Final Fantasy that this was the biggest release ever and it was amazing and whatever. They will not share publicly that this was a miss. But I'm talking to stores. I know that stores struggle to get people in the door for pre-release here. So internally at Wizards of the Coast, if I'm the guy that Mark Rosewater comes to and says, "Hey, what happened? What do you think? Give me your thoughts on this data. We had half the number of people play at pre-release, or a third of the number of people play at pre-releases across the countries. What happened?" I would say this. Wizards of the Coast has a problem that they cannot identify what is a Magic the Gathering set. There was a day when Wizards printed a set, you knew what you were going to get. You knew exactly what to expect. You were going to get a Magic the Gathering set that was going to have this number of kind of mythics and this number of cards, and you knew when you went and played it, it would feel and it would flow like a Magic the Gathering set. They keep trying to change the dynamics of the booster box and change the dynamics of all these things. And that has wins. There are good things that come from being creative and changing the narrative and changing the way that the world works. Like, there are good things that come from that. But I feel like they have completely lost any sense of what is a Magic the Gathering set. Doing Spider-Man is already enough to change. Why do you also have to change the number of cards in the set and the type of booster box? And why do you also have to change the way that you draft? Why do you also have to change all these things? Why can't we just stick to some sort of model, some sort of formula, or at least around some sort of formula that says this is what a Magic the Gathering set is, this is the price point, and get back to the basics rather than trying to have 18 different products. And I just feel like they don't know what is a Magic the Gathering set. The number of legendary creatures, there should be some rule in Magic the Gathering internal discussion for creating a set. Unless you're doing like a Dominaria United, this is a legendary creatures matter type set. There should be some sort of rule and guide for when you create a set. There should not be this many legendary creatures because it affects limited play. That kind of thing. They need to get back to creating a formula that works for Magic the Gathering first, and then for the IP that they want to do. I've accepted it. They're gonna do a Barney Magic the Gathering set. That's fine with me, as long as it's still fun Magic the Gathering. I think that was lost a little bit with the limited experience in Spider-Man. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts about how your pre-releases went. I know in some different areas and some larger cities and that kind of stuff, you probably still had a bunch of people at pre-release. You probably didn't have enough pre-release kits. I'm in a rural area where we get a lot of products still, and so love to hear your thoughts if you heard something different. Remember to be kind to the people around you. We'll see you again next video. Bye. I don't know. I messed up my ending there. Have a great day. See you again next video.